In this lesson, we'll talk about keyboards. Android supports virtual on-screen keyboards, and these keyboards can be different types, like alphabetic or numeric. At times, we may also want to control when a keyboard displays, or we might want to hide it. So let's take a look at the application I've created. In this application, we're going to go through some of the keyboard types, and also we'll hide and show the keyboard. First of all, we'll take a look at these edit texts. And we did take a look at this a little bit before, but we'll have a more thorough look in this case. For each one of the edit texts, there is an input type attribute. In this case, for a plain text, it's just text. For capital letters, it's a text characters. For email, it's a text email address. For phone, it's an input type phone. Password is text password. And finally, number is cleverly named number. Each one of these input types affects what the virtual keyboard looks like. So when we run it, when it's all capital letters, the keyboard will actually show basically a caps lock. Now the user can still change the keyboard, and there's nothing that causes a validation in the edit text. It just affects the way the keyboard is displayed initially. And then we have the hide and show keyboard buttons. And if we go to the activity code, I can show you what those look like. First of all, I should mention the edit text 1, which was marked as disabled. In code, we set its input type equal to type's null. The actual attribute choice in the designer of none doesn't seem to work. But this will cause it to be a disabled text box, so the user won't be able to make any entries to it and the keyboard won't show up. Now on to the buttons. We'll first take a look at the button disable keyboard click. And we first get an input method manager. And we get that through a system service. And we're looking for the parameter input method service when we get the system service. All of the edit texts are considered input methods. And then off of that input manager, we're going to hide the soft input from the window. We pass it in just a window token from our button. It doesn't really matter for this particular call what that token is. And we're going to hide the soft input flags, and I can show you the choices for flags. There's implicit only, none, not always, and we're just going to set it for none so that it's basically always hidden regardless of any kind of context. For the show keyboard click, a similar thing where we do indeed get the input method manager. And this time we're going to do a show soft input. In this case, we have to pass it the context which we want it to show the input on. So we're going to pick the second edit text. The other edit texts will not be affected. And we're going to force a show. So anytime we click the button, if we're in the edit text 2, the keyboard will be shown. And we'll run that. So the first edit text is the disabled. And if I close that keyboard, you can see that I can't really click in it. And if I show a keyboard, it doesn't really have any effect because the show was only on the second one. For the plain text, the usual behavior is once the text box has focus that the keyboard will pop up, and you can see it's an alphabetic keyboard. I can hide the keyboard, and I can show it. For capital letters, you can see the keyboard does turn into all caps. For email, again an alphabetic keyboard, but it has the @ symbol for the email. For the phone, we end up with a numeric keyboard. And I'm going to cheat and use the next button. For the password, an alphabetic keyboard. And for number, a numeric keyboard. Going back to that capital letters keyboard, I can indeed change it back to lowercase, and I can type in lowercase letters. So there's no validation that's going on there. All the letters are accepted, and you can see that with the phone number and the capital letters. When I initially put the text in it, it accepted text that you wouldn't expect would be valid for a phone number or for capital letters. So this shows how we can control the keyboard.